Hello, welcome to another episode of In the Trenches with Gang Green. I'm your host, Bubbs. Today is Monday, October 7th. This is episode 399 of the In the Trenches with Gang Green podcast. I thank you, as always, for joining me. And here we are. It is another one of these Mondays, the second straight losing Monday in a row. Man, these suck. There's no other way to put it. Getting the notes ready for today's episode was frustrating, annoying, just everything about these days, the day after these type of games, everything about losing like the Jets are. The same old type of Jets losses just stinks, just frustrating. And similar to last week, after usually the day after the game, you get 24 hours afterwards and you start to look ahead, you start to gather more composed, I guess, calm thoughts. And I'm kind of in the situation I was last week with Denver, where I am still fuming from yesterday's game, even though we are well past 24 hours from yesterday's game, given that it was 9:30 Eastern start time in the morning, with, of course, being in London. And I'm still furious. I am still so frustrated. The fact that this team falls to 2-3, coaching staff is a disaster. And they've got a lot of other problems as well that we will break down in today's episode. We'll get to some injury updates from Saleh that he spoke to the media this morning. We'll talk a little bit more about Saleh. We'll get some Rodgers and, of course, some more takeaways. We'll take a look at some numbers from yesterday's game, as we kind of do here every Monday afternoon, I should say, post Jets Sunday loss, unfortunately, yet again. As always, though, before we begin, let me tell you about our podcast partners, starting with our friends over at BetUS, America's favorite online sportsbook. Football season is in full swing. You've got Monday Night Football tonight. You've got the Yankees on tonight. You've got playoff baseball. See me rocking my Soto shirt. Yankees, Mets, both in the playoffs here. If you want to bet on the MLB postseason action, you want to bet on NFL, you want to bet on college football, no better place to do it than at BetUS. Plus, my viewers, click my link in the description of this video to get a 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits up to $2,000. Also, our friends over at Huga House. If you want any of the special edition Aaron Rodgers 20th season hats, head on over to Huga House now because they are going fast. You've seen me wear the green one all the time on the podcast, or you want any of the other ones that Rodgers rocks all the time, make sure to check them out. Link in the description of this video, promo code BUBS for 15% off any purchase. And also SeatGeek. You're looking for tickets for any event, looking for last-second tickets for a postseason game tonight, you're looking to get to the Yankees game, any event that has a ticket, SeatGeek has it. If you're using SeatGeek for the first time, use promo code BUBSONSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase and get yourself out to some awesome events. All right, now into today's episode. Another one of these after, a brutal loss last week to the Denver Broncos where the Jets don't score a touchdown. You come into this week and, you're hopeful that maybe they can. I wasn't very hopeful, but you're hoping that maybe they can turn the page. You go across, the pond to London, going up against a very good Vikings team. Hopefully they can make the necessary adjustments against the blitz, all these different things. Last week was hopefully just kind of one of those outliers where you got upset. It happens across an NFL season. You were able to bounce back and you go out there again yesterday. And despite making a late comeback and almost having a chance there with the ball with 3 minutes and 7 seconds left, the ball in Rodgers' hands, obviously throws the game-losing pick intended for Mike Williams. Even though they had a chance, gave themselves a chance, they found themselves again in an early hole. They weren't ready to play and all these frustrating things. So we'll break it all down in today's podcast. We'll get into some more Robert Saleh stuff because I am still fuming at some of his decisions. I am still fuming at this coaching staff, Nathaniel Hackett, everybody involved in what was another disaster yesterday morning. But before we get into all that, we have to clear up some injury news here. So Robert Saleh spoke to the media this morning. Here are the latest injury updates with the New York Jets.
Real quick, just to cover the couple of injuries from yesterday. So Michael is going to get evaluated. I'll have something more for you guys on Thursday. And then Michael Carter. And then same thing with Aaron. He's dealing with a low ankle, but all the preliminary stuff says he'll be fine.
So those are your updates, the two biggest ones. Michael Carter yesterday was kind of an interesting one. We talked about it in the post-game pod, but it actually happened in warmups. He didn't even play. What happened in warmups was the hamstring. He's been dealing with the ankle all year, but yesterday was the hamstring. So we'll know more, as Salah said there, as the week goes on. You can never trust Salah, though, with injury updates. So we'll know. That's really kind of something that if he's out there Monday night, he's out there. That's you can fully trust if he's healthy or not, because we've seen this happen before. But I'm sure we will know more Thursday. And then with the Rodgers stuff, obviously positive news there that it's nothing major. He'll be out there Monday. Certainly something to keep an eye on the rest of the way. It is beneficial that the Jets have an extra day here coming off this London trip. They could have elected to take the bye week instead here. You get the Monday night game against Buffalo, but they have an extra day. Rodgers has an extra day. He's banged up. No other way to put it. You could tell he's banged up. He looked banged up yesterday. He looked hurt. The sack, the face he was making, he was kind of crawling on the ground. At first, you were thinking at worse with Rodgers. When he went down, he was crawling on the ground. It looked like it could have been something severe. So given the fact that it looks like he'll be okay, obviously that's a positive coming off of yesterday's game, and expect to see him out there Monday. But those are the two main injury updates. Unfortunately, they're involving two major pieces, Aaron Rodgers and, of course, Michael Carter II, the team's nickel corner, who, of course, got extended. But both guys seem to be okay. Rodgers is fine. We'll know more about Carter as the week goes on, but doesn't seem like it's anything major from the early signs of it. So those are the injury updates. Now to the real stuff and why, of course, we're coming on here this morning. And that's more takeaways from yesterday's loss. We'll get to some numbers, but I have to talk more about Robert Saleh. I mean, I'm in a terrible place when it comes to Robert Saleh. I really am. I don't know why he's still the head coach. I said it yesterday. If I was the New York Jets when this plane landed in London, heck, forget the plane landing back home at Newark. Forget that. Landing back on American soil. I would have said, fire him in London, fire him and Hackett in London, leave him in London, let them get, a scenic trip and all that stuff. Leave him out there. At least they can do some tourist stuff. They could tour around a little bit. Maybe they stay and watch next week's game in London, I believe between the Bears and the Jaguars. You could at least left them there and fired him and said, all right, we'll fire you, but here's a London vacation. Instead, they let him come home, of course. Obviously, I'm joking, but you get the point. If I was the New York Jets, seeing how dysfunctional this coach is and how this team for the second week in a row came out and they weren't prepared, I don't want to wait. I wouldn't wait until Buffalo. Because if you lose to Buffalo and you fall to 2-4, then it's too late. It's too late. You have an extra day this week. Nothing's going to change. We've seen this now for 56 games under Robert Saleh. Nothing is going to change. He's not all of a sudden in 1 week going to make drastic changes, start holding guys accountable. This team's going to come out fast and they're going to play the cleanest brand of football and they're going to look like a Super Bowl contender. That's not going to happen in a week. Especially when it's been happening like this way for 4 straight years. Robert Saleh is not a good coach, period. There's nothing more to say about that. We gave him a chance this year with Aaron Rodgers, and we said that if things didn't start well, he needs to be on a short leash. Well, a short leash to me is if this team's still struggling in October, you move on before a massive division game next week. I wouldn't even let him prepare these guys for next week. But they will. Fine. But that's it then. If they get blown out next week, forget getting blown out. If they just lose next week, you've got to make a change, no matter how you lose, because then you're staring at 2-4, and that's when your season's reeling at that point. 2-3, okay. Division this week, you win. You're atop the division. If you want delusion, Jets fans, I just gave it to you. You want a positive spin on this? I'll give it to you. The Jets, thanks to Sean McDermott and the Bills, poor coaching yesterday down the stretch of that game, they lost that game to the Houston Texans. So the Jets win next week. As bad as it's been, they are first place in the division. So there's some delusion. While I don't think that happens, there's delusion that you can hang on to for the next week. Well, let's just give you some Robert Saleh stuff. Why not? And I know I'm probably beating a dead horse at this point. It feels like we're getting into the Zach Wilson territory of conversations where he's just not good. No matter which way you spin it, he sucks, and there's no other way to put it. That's what it feels like, and there's not going to be a change being made. No matter how much we talked about Zach last year, they kept throwing him out there. No matter how much we talk about Robert Saleh, he's going to be standing on that sideline every single weekend because this ownership doesn't want to do anything. They don't make changes during the season. That's just not what they do. And the Jets from the outside want to tell everybody everything's okay. We'll get Devontae Adams, and one big happy family. We'll justify this loss. We were competitive. Game on the line here for the division lead. Everything's all right. Don't worry. Everything's okay. One big happy Jets family. That's why they haven't made the playoffs in 14 years, because there's no urgency in this organization. But anyway, Robert Saleh, let's give you some numbers. 20 and 36 in his 56 games as Jets head coach dating back to 2021. That's a .351 winning percentage. He's 183rd out of 201 coaches in NFL history with 50 games coached with that winning percentage. So he has one of the worst winning percentages in NFL history with coaches with at least 50-plus games coached. 183rd out of a 201 qualified coaches with that brutal, ugly, disgusting .351 winning percentage over 3 years and 5 weeks. I don't want to be that guy, but some of these numbers, courtesy of Michael Nania, really broke it down. I don't want to be that guy, but I'm going to be that guy here for a second because I'm fired up. I'm ticked off with this team every single week coming out like this and losing games like this, and it starts with the coaching. I don't want to be that guy, but Adam Gase in his career, 32 and 48, a .400 winning percentage in 80 games coached, that's better than Robert Saleh. Now, I know Gaze's 9 and 23 record in 2 years was worse than Saleh's 20 and 36 win percentage wise, but still, that's ugly. We talk about Gaze being one of the worst coaches of all time. Saleh's got a worse winning percentage than him. That's a real bad look. And remember when Saleh said last week, and there is a disclaimer that I'll give here in a second, but remember when Saleh said last week that they're not worried about the penalties, everything will be all right? Well, yesterday the New York Jets had 8 penalties for 76 yards. Now, I know some of them weren't great calls. I agree. There's a couple fluky pass interference penalties. I get it. But no matter which way you draw it up, just like a win is a win and a loss is a loss, a penalty is a penalty. No matter which way you chalk it up, the Jets yesterday had 8 penalties for 76 yards. So this notion that last week was an outlier and that everything's okay and that the Jets don't need to fix anything from a discipline perspective, right? Guys shouldn't, men want to be treated like men, as our great head coach said last week. Well, the Jets had 8 penalties again yesterday, and you look at their last 4 games, that's now 36 penalties for 342 yards in their last 4 games. That evens out to 9 penalties and 85.5 yards over those last 4 games. And you look at the season total, it doesn't get much better. 39 penalties, 352 yards. This season, on average, the Jets are averaging 7.8 penalties per game for 70 yards. That is beyond pathetic. That is not a team that can make the playoffs. That is not a team that if they keep that up is going to win a division. And definitely not a team. Don't even tell me this team right now can compete for a Lombardi trophy with this garbage happening every weekend. Don't even give me that nonsense. They're so far from that right now. So far from that. And oh yeah, by the way, Jets again, as I talked about last week, but top 7 in penalties. They were first in penalties last year. They're 7th in penalties this year. So this notion of, oh, it's okay, everything's all right. Another week of a lot of penalties. And I understand probably 2 or 3 of them were bad calls, so you can make the case there maybe should have only been 3 or 4 penalties on the Jets. But still, 8 penalties is 8 penalties no matter which way you chalk it up. They're not going to get revoked. They're not going to get taken away. They're 8 penalties. That's just the way it is. Just the way it is. And the lack of accountability is so alarming. So alarming. There's a lack of accountability, and there's also no urgency. Robert Saleh today made a comment about the offensive line and if he's concerned and all that stuff. And he continued, and this is one of my biggest pet peeves with Robert Saleh. And I'll be honest, I actually don't think I talked about this much last week. I was more talking about the accountability factor last week with Saleh. But he's always giving credit. I mean, this kind of falls under the accountability umbrella, which where I'm going with this. But he continues every single week, gives credit to the other team. This morning at the podium, Oh, Saleh, offensive line, this and that, not playing well. And he credits the Broncos defense. He's like, oh, give credit Minnesota, give credit Denver. Two good teams, blitz a lot. I mean, every single week, it's always giving credit to the opponent. Always. Always. Instead of taking accountability and saying, we got to do better, we weren't ready, we're not doing a well enough job preparing these guys against the blitz or whatever it is, it's always, oh, give credit to them. They blitz a lot. They do it well. Give credit to those coaching staff. They do it well. They're always giving credit to everybody else. Always. Instead of taking accountability and saying, you know what? We weren't good enough. I'm not doing good enough. We have to be better. Simple as that. He doesn't have to stand up there and throw the podium, but he can show a little bit of a sign of reading the room a little bit and understanding what is happening right now. And instead of making it seem like everything's okay and one big happy family, he's got to read the room a little bit. Like, it's just, I'm sick of that too. I'm sick of that. The giving credit. Like, this morning, that's the last thing I wanted to hear was credit to Minnesota, credit to Denver. Still early. That's what he said yesterday. It's still early. No urgency. You're 2-3. We said this after San Francisco, that they were 0-1, and we said week 1, extension of the preseason. It's October 7th. When the New York Jets take the field next week against the Buffalo Bills, it'll be October 14th. They will be halfway through October. If this team doesn't turn it around, forget about December football. Forget about that nonsense. It's October. Things start to get real now. The trade deadline's in less than a month. October is where you start to see teams separate themselves amongst the pack. And I know there's a lot of parity right now in the NFL. There's a lot of parity in the AFC East, and I get that. But if you continue to just have this happen week in and week out, no changes are made, bad coaching, bad performances, all this nonsense, forget about it. It's going to get laid out early. I'm so tired of, oh, it's still early. It's only 5 games. Oh, this and that. So when we're at game 13 and the Jets drop their 8th straight game, is it still going to be early, coach? How many times have we heard that in the past couple years? Oh, it's still early. Don't worry. It's still early. And they always end up collapsing anyway. The Jets actually usually are better early in the season with Saleh, right? 6-3 in 2022, 7-4 in 2022, actually. That's when they really peaked. 6 straight losses. Last year, 4-3. Then they went 3-7 down the stretch. So usually they're actually better early, and then they fall apart late. So either way. And I'll be honest, and this is, I think, I want to play some quotes here. Quincy Williams yesterday, didn't play it on the recap pod, did it right after the game, but I wanted to pull this quote because Quincy Williams has not only been an excellent player on the field, but this was so refreshing to hear the words come out of his mouth yesterday about accountability, talking about how some certain people need to take accountability and all that stuff. Here was what I thought was a really good quote from what's turning into really a leader on this team, Quincy Williams. And really, I think, understands the fan base and understands where this team is at right now instead of your coach who is clueless.
You guys were down 17-0 at one point. You guys battled back to the end. What does it say about this team?
I'm going to be honest, man. People get tired of hearing the same. Taking accountability from the top to the bottom. That's the main thing, bro. That's all I got to say for real.
All right, let's talk about the fumble recovery. What happened there?
Just lost my battle, man. I gotta get that one to the end zone, bro. When my number get called, bro, that's it.
What's the mentality of this team right now?
Like I said, people got to start taking accountability, bro. People get tired of hearing the same thing every week.
For you, what do you need to work on?
I'm tired of saying the same thing every week. For me, I need to start working on being a leader more. That's the main thing.
All right, thanks, Quincy. I appreciate it.
Appreciate you for having me.
So that was Quincy Williams there. There's been some talk about who he's gearing those comments to when he specifically the line where he said people need to start taking accountability. I think he's kind of taking a shot at a little bit of everybody, right? Not only just maybe the guys on offense, although I would say that Rodgers has taken accountability. Rodgers has taken a lot of accountability. I mean, even yesterday, and we'll play a Rodgers clip here in a second for you. And then I have a Brees clip, which kind of fired me up a little bit in a bad way. I don't like what Brees said really at all, especially with the way he's playing. But we'll get to that here in a second. I think he's doing it a little bit of everyone. I don't think it's just targeted at Salah. I do think some of it's targeted at the coaching staff. People got to start taking accountability. Look, accountability too is also sort of having a sense of urgency as well. You know, like if things aren't going well, changes need to be made. Discussions need to be had. I mean, you look at the Jets sideline yesterday; it was lifeless. They were down 17-0. They were sleeping on the sideline. I mean, not literally, but they were. They were. I mean, Rodgers wasn't having conversations with anybody. If Salah doesn't turn around, he just stares into space and has his arms crossed and walks up and down the sideline. I mean, that's what he does. So I think there's also that sense of it as well. But look, I think he's talking about everybody. I think he's talking about guys on the defense. I think he's certainly maybe talking about the offense a little bit, about instead of always saying we're close and this and that and Hackett and all this nonsense. And I also think he's aiming at the head coach. Because what did the head coach say yesterday? Oh, don't worry, it's early. Don't worry, it's okay. Last week, right? The penalties. Oh, it's an outlier. We'll be all right. There's no problems here. Everything will be all right. It's early. It's been the big thing. We competed, we fought. We came back 17-0. We came back. Right? That's what it is. So props to Quincy Williams there, man. He deserves credit for that. You know, not many guys will say that, but for him to step up there, he earned a lot of respect yesterday. Not only for his play on the field, and he's a guy that's actually been playing well. He's not a guy that needs to hold himself accountable. He's been one of the better. He's been one of the only guys this season on this team to actually show up week in and week out. One of the only ones. So credit to Quincy Williams. And here was also Rodgers just talking about his game and also taking accountability.
Aaron, the last time you were here in 2022 was with the Packers, and since then you've been through a lot of change with the injury, with the move to New York. How does the Aaron Rodgers of today differ to the Aaron Rodgers of 2022 when dealing with a loss like this?
I mean, they all hurt. Just got to be, honest with your performance every single week and hold yourself to a standard. Obviously, that was below my standard. I just found out I've never thrown 2 picks in the first quarter before, so that's a first. One of us cost, obviously, 7. And the other, could cost 3. So in a game where you lose by 6, plays like that are exponentially highlighted. So 3 turnovers for me is definitely out of character, and I'm disappointed.
Look, Rodgers was terrible yesterday. He was not good at he was terrible yesterday. He was not good last week. I wouldn't say he was terrible last week. I would say he wasn't his best. Last week he was This week he was terrible. There's no other way to put it. Rodgers was awful yesterday. He was a shell of himself. He looked old yesterday. He looked old. There's no other way to put it. And I'm not going to sit here and say Rodgers is washed. I'm not there yet. But at least for a guy, right, didn't play well, 3 interceptions, takes accountability. I didn't play well. I understand, all that stuff. And last week he said too, crappy weather, but I also made some crappy throws. He's not standing up there and saying, oh, the rain was coming down, or yesterday, oh, good defense, great defense. They blitzed us a lot. No, sick of it. So there is some accountability from some of the players, but not from the head coach. And unfortunately, when the head coach doesn't take accountability, and that just trickles down. It starts at the top. It starts all the way at the top and trickles all the way down. And that's the culture that Robert Saleh and this regime has implemented. And that's why the results are what they are. That's why. Now, I want to get into a little bit more on Rodgers. Look, I don't think Rodgers is washed. I will say this, though, about Rodgers. I do think Aaron Rodgers, and I thought he would kind of recognize this last year, right, sitting around. They had to literally bring him back to try and stabilize the locker room because that's how bad things were going last season when he was obviously down with the torn Achilles. But so you would kind of think that last year he saw the ugly side of this organization, right? When he came here, it was all rainbows and flowers and everything. It was great, right? 2023, Hard Knocks, this is great. Rodgers Mania, this is awesome. Saleh doing all these different speeches. This is awesome. He goes down. Jets, of course, finished 7-10. I thought then and there he would see the ugly side of the Jets organization. But I still think Rodgers, and this is just the way he is, he's very confident in himself. He believes that he believes very heavily in himself. And I think going into this season, I don't really think it's cocky, but I think going into this season, he thought since he was there that everything would change. So that's what I will say about Aaron Rodgers. I do think Rodgers is starting to realize that what he took on this season, which is basically running the offense, trying to run the offense by himself, overcoming the incompetence of Nathaniel Hackett and the rest of the incompetence of this organization, not even just Hackett, but the head coach and the rest of this organization, trying to change the culture, do all that stuff while playing quarterback, right? Playing quarterback's already a lot on your plate. It's even more when you're practically running the offense, or you kind of have to, because Hackett is that bad. So I do think Rodgers is starting to realize that maybe what he got himself into, we all thought, oh, he'll just audible every play by Hackett, everything will be all right. I think he's starting to realize, and I got this impression last week that was the first time I thought Rodgers can't overcome this coaching staff. That was the first time you have a legitimate concern Rodgers can't overcome it. And I think yesterday was another example. And I think yesterday was kind of a reality check for Rodgers of like, man, this coaching staff is terrible. I don't quite know what I got myself into, in a way. So I wouldn't say he's washed, but I do think he is. I don't want to say regretting his decision, but I do think he's understanding that this is going to be a lot more difficult to overcome the incompetence that's in this organization than what he probably originally thought. And to be fair, probably what a lot of us Jets fans thought. I mean, I'll be honest, I didn't think Nathaniel Hackett's play calling would be this much of a factor. I really thought it would change. I really did. But it's been just as much, basically the same factor as it was last year, which is terrible and not good to say the least. But I don't know if I'd say he's washed. I mean, he's banged up. And I'm not making excuses for the guy, but he was clearly hurt. He's already 40 to get banged up 40. I don't think he's washed. Because let's be honest here, 2 weeks ago, we were talking about, oh, look at his mobility. He's making throws on the run. This is vintage Rodgers. I mean, like 2 weeks ago, we were talking about that. And I guess to be fair, you know, you could say 2 weeks ago, we were all talking about how Saleh and Hackett had the team ready to play, short week, all that stuff, took advantage of New England's weaknesses. They passed early and often, all that stuff. So you could say that too. Oh, it's 2 bad weeks. But I think when Rodgers, look, the offensive line's been awful. He didn't play. He played terrible yesterday. No way to put it. I said it in the post-game pod. I'm not going to make any excuses for him. He played awful. And a Hall of Fame quarterback, the reason they bring him in is to win games like yesterday, to drive down the field and win games. And he threw an absolute garbage ball to Mike Williams. He back shoulder ball, he threw at his ankles. That can't happen. It's inexcusable. But I don't think he's washed. I don't think he's washed. Is he the same player he was 10 years ago? Heck. Is he the same player he was in 2020 and 2021, which is basically 3 years ago when he won back-to-back MVPs? No, he's not. We know that. We know he wasn't going to be the same player. He kind of showed that in 2022. But this is also a guy that, I mean, right now is a top 15, top 17 quarterback in football. I mean, he's tied for 9th in touchdowns. He's 14th in yards. It's not like he's 28th in yards, 29th in touchdowns. It's not like this is a guy that's got 2 touchdowns, 6 picks, and 800 yards right now. I mean, you know, so I don't know if I go as far as calling him washed, but I do think he is starting to understand that maybe what he's taking on is a lot larger than he thought. And I think he's really starting to see this franchise rear its ugly head, which is full of incompetence, bad coaching, bad leadership, no leadership. It's not bad because there is none. It can't be bad if there's none. There's just none. That's what it is. So some stuff on Rodgers there. As for takeaways from yesterday, some more stats. I want to get to Brees. I'm just going to play this clip and I'm going to react. That's what I'm going to do here.
Frustrating has it been that the running game hasn't been able to get going like the way I know you guys know you're capable of?
I mean, it is what it is. At the end of the day, I just want to win. But, you know, you see it. You know, if you don't run for 100 yards, people think you suck or whatever. But it is what it is, man. I just come out, try to be the same guy every day, just do my job because I know whether we run the ball 10 times or 20 times, we always have a chance to win the game.
So he gave you the team first approach of, you know, I just want to win the game, all that stuff, no matter what. And then he gives you, and this is what I hated, right? We talk about Quincy Williams's accountability. We talk about Rodgers' accountability. And maybe I'm reading this quote wrong. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm just so frustrated right now that I'm taking this quote out of context. But to me, how I process this quote is, oh, if I don't have 100 yards, fans, nobody's going to be happy, whatever that stuff. Basically saying, like, I'm not a problem right now. My games, I'm not playing that bad. It's just that, like, to me, he didn't take accountability to that there. To me, it's like, oh, if I don't put up 100 yards, I'm going to, it's going to get criticized. Brees. And I love Brees, and I love Garrett, and I love Sauce, and I love that 2022 draft class. Jermaine, of course, unfortunately goes down against Tennessee, as we all know. That 2022 draft class is a big reason why this team was put in a position to bring in Rodgers and all that stuff. We get all that. And I love Brees. I think I love his personality, love what he brings to the team, love him as a running back. I do. But you guys know what you're going to get on the podcast. New York is a what have you done lately for me market. It just is. That's just how it is. And that's how the fans are. We're not asking you to go out there and put up 100 yards. We're not asking you to go out there and be elite right now. But heck, can you go out there and be better than what you have done the last 2 weeks? You have 19 carries and 27 yards in the last 2 games. You don't need to put up, if fans aren't frustrated because you're not putting up 100 yards. Fans are frustrated because flat out, he sucks right now. Brees Hall the last 2 weeks have been awful. He's looked like a bottom of the league running back the last 2 weeks. Let's just tell like it is. Blunt, plain, and simple. Heck, even against New England, I know he scored, but it wasn't his best game from a rushing perspective. Even in week 1, he hasn't had his best year. He's averaging 3 yards a carry this year. That's pathetic. That's awful. That's sad. So I don't know. I did not like that quote. You're coming off of a loss. Read the room a little bit. You're playing. The run game is garbage right now. Don't give me this nonsense of, oh, if you don't rush for 100 yards, fans are going to be upset. No. And at least be competitive right now. I mean, these runs that he has aren't even competitive. They're terrible. They're awful. We're not asking for much. Is it crazy to ask for more than 27 rush yards in 2 games? So don't give me the nonsense of, 100 yards. No. We'd like to see more than 27 yards in 2 games. Like, understand. I did not like that quote at all. I just didn't. The run game has sucked. I don't want to hear, oh, woe is me if you don't put up 100. Almost like saying, oh, I'm not even playing that bad. I mean, no, you suck right now. There's no other way to put it. The run game stinks right now. There's no other way to put it. And you've got to take accountability. As opposed to giving one of those answers of, I don't like that. I didn't like that. I just didn't. He's got to be better. Brees has got to be so much better. The run game's got to be much better. To me, his vision hasn't looked very good. I'll just give you some numbers here. He's got a 35.4 rushing success rate. Percent rushing success rate. That's last in the NFL. He's got 27 rush yards in the last 2 games on 19 carries. 65 carries this season for 197 yards. That's 3 yards per carry. First year in 7 games, he had 5.8 yards per carry. Last year, he had 4.5 yards per carry. He's almost down. I mean, he's down about 2 full yards a carry from his rookie year, and he's down a whole 1.5 yards from last year. And we've always talked about with Brees is just explosiveness. Like, he always was able to find holes, explosive, get to the open field. His runs always look so easy. They just don't. Like, even his, like, everything right now, he just looks slow. He looks sluggish. He doesn't look quite like himself. He's been awful the last 2 weeks. That's just putting it simple. I know some Jets fans are scared to criticize Brees and scared to criticize Garrett and scared to criticize even Rodgers from yesterday. I know people are scared because, oh, they're darlings. They can't be criticized. But look, when you play like trash, you deserve to get criticized. Fans also need to hold players accountable too. We can't talk about the Jets not holding players accountable and then defend Brees Hall for what has been two of the worst games of his career. I mean, the guy last week had 10 carries on 4 yards, or 10 carries for 4 yards. He was averaging 0.4 yards a carry. Take accountability. Read the room. Did not like that quote at all from Brees. Didn't at all. And I want to give you this number too. This is from Zach Rosenblatt this morning. Posted it up here on Twitter. And I wanted to use it here because I really thought it kind of encapsulates too where the Jets' rankings are rushing wise. EPA per rush, they're at negative 0.17. That's 29th in football. Yards per rush, they're at 3.6. That's 30th in football. Percentage of rushes for zero or negative yards, 23%. 23% of the Jets' runs this season have been for zero or negative yards. That is mind-numbingly bad. That's 27th in football. Yards before contact per rush, 0.44. That's 32nd in football. And I think this is pretty bad as well. The Jets have only seen a stacked box rate of 14.2%. That's 28th in the NFL. It's not like teams are stacking the box against the Jets really here. It's just not. They're not. The Jets' run game just flat out stinks right now. Brees' vision hasn't been very good. There's been some runs. You even watch it back, too. I think it's been more noticeable on the All-22 film where he's just running into guys. Like last year, he cuts up field, finds these lanes. This year, he's just running into offensive linemen. I always go back to that run last week against Denver. He had a lane, an open lane. And he cut up inside an open lane. And instead, he just ran in between Ruckert and his blocker. And went for nowhere. Like I didn't quite. His vision just doesn't look good right now. He looks slow. He looks sluggish. Look, I don't know if he's hurt. I don't like to always assume players are hurt if they're struggling. I just don't. But who knows? Maybe he is. Maybe he's banged up. I mean, I don't think he is. I'm sure if he is, you'd hear about it by now because, like, how much longer can the Jets let this happen without saying something? You know, you feel like they would want to protect their star player. So if he was hurt, they would want to say that he's banged up as opposed to just making it seem like he just stinks right now. Like, I think you would have heard something by now about him being hurt as opposed to, and it's not like you're playing any tricks with the opponent. He sucks either way. It's not like if you tell the opponent he's hurt, they're all of a sudden going to, no, he's been a non-factor, you know? There's no gamesmanship there either of trying to hide that maybe if he's banged up. I don't know. He's been awful, and I did not like that answer at all. He could have said, I'm playing like trash, and I'm not playing well enough right now. I have to be better instead of, if you don't go for 100 yards in a game, people get upset. No, people aren't upset if you don't go for 100 yards. People are upset if they're playing like you right now, where you have 29 rush yards in the last 2 games. That's where people are upset because you stink right now. No other way to put it. Flat, plain, and simple. You stink right now. I also want to get to some Lazard stuff. His drop rate, you can't do this anymore. You just can't. I'm sorry. I tried to, I guess, hope that Lazard with Rodgers would be better, but you can't do this every week. You can't have every week Lazard have 2 to 3 bad drops and then just make up for it with a touchdown. You just can't have that. Like, it's just, I know the touchdowns are there. He's got 4, which are tied for 3rd in most in the NFL. I get he's been better than last year. I understand that, but you can't drop a touchdown, have 2 other bad drops, and then catch a touchdown, have 1 or 2 other good grabs, and call it a good day. No, you just can't do that. And you look at his drop rate. Last year, 17.9% led the NFL. This year, 23.1% leads the NFL. In terms of hands, he's got the worst hands in football right now. No other way to put it. And the Jets are like, they're killing, they're shooting. He shoots the Jet. He just kills the team. I mean, yesterday, you get the fumble, big opportunity, and he has that drop. You drop the touchdown. Like, yes, it was a tough play. We get that, but good receivers make that play. Big moment in the game. You want that? You want to go far this season? You got to make that play. Like, that's a play in the playoffs you have to make. Heck, why am I even bringing up that word? They're 2-3 right now. But you get the point. I don't know what more to say about Lazard other than I think he's a guy that's got to lose rap. I know he's Rodgers' friend, but if they do go out and get Devontae Adams, like, and that's another reason why I think too you need Devontae Adams. Just you can't keep doing with his Lazard every week. As much as we joke, oh, the Allen Lazard experience, oh, he's got all these touchdowns. You can't have 2 to 3 game-changing drops and then catch a touchdown and be like, oh, everything's okay. Everything's okay. No, you just can't do that. Malachi Corley, I don't get. I don't get it. I don't get it. How can the Jets all spring, all draft process tell you, oh, we love Malachi Corley, this and that, and then 2 snaps through 5 games? And now Corley's going on like a social media, I don't want to say tirade, but on his Instagram story today, he's posting some of his college highlights. He's reposting some of his college stuff on Twitter. Now he's starting to, I'm not playing, I'm not being used. Now let me take to social media. So that's always a fun combination. An unhappy receiver taking to social media, that always ends well. He was a healthy scratch. I didn't even talk about it yesterday. In my game preview, I talked about trying to get Malachi Corley involved. He didn't even play. I don't think it's for a trade for Devontae Adams. I don't. I don't know why it would be. Like, if you're this high on him, I don't know. I know, look, the guy can't just sit all year. You can't just sit him all year. You can't, I don't know. I don't want to panic on Malachi Corley, but this is giving me really bad vibes of the Jets failing or just messing up on a day 2 receiver again. I mean, how many more times do we need to have this happen? It just feels like we're heading in that direction again. It really does. And it feels like it's not even Corley, it's the Jets. Why is Xavier Gibson, who, by the way, had a good punt return yesterday and set up that 1 touchdown drive? Why is he, though, getting reps over Corley? I don't like that at all. So, some other notes. I want to get some tight end stuff here. Some of the tight end blocking grades are brutal. Jeremy Ruckert, lowest tight end blocking grade in the NFL. Brendan Bates, 42 run block grade, second worst in the NFL. So Ruckert's run blocking grade as a tight end's the worst. Bates is the second worst. And Tyler Conklin's 6th worst, 45.5. So for all 3 tight ends on your roster being first, second, and 6th worst in run blocking in the NFL among tight ends this year certainly doesn't help. I thought Conklin had a nice grab yesterday, but I will continue to say this. I still don't quite understand some of the Jets' usage of tight ends. I don't know. I still don't get it. Ruckert's been a non-factor in the passing game. He's been a non-factor in the passing game. Ruckert's a guy that just looking ahead, let's say Conklin doesn't come back next year. Ruckert's a guy that you really, going into this year, you would have liked to seen more out of him. But like he's not showing you at all enough to say you can go into next year as him with your starting tight end. You'd probably be looking, maybe they bring back Conklin, but let's say Conklin doesn't come back, right? They hit the open market, they got to pay some other guys. You're looking at a situation where I don't even know if Ruckert's the answer post Conklin. You really don't. He hasn't shown you much. So I don't know. Don't know what more to say about that. That's the Jets offense. Let's take a look at some defense stuff. DJ Reed was awesome yesterday. I have to say, he's been awesome all year. He's been the Jets' best corner. You know, Sauce has had some ups and downs. Dropping that interception yesterday was about as bad as it gets. That completely changes the game. I mean, you've got to catch that. I will say this too. Why does every Jets defender feel like struggle at times? Other than Brandon Echols, he's like a ball magnet. The Jets drop so many interceptions. Whether it was Sauce yesterday, you've had, Tony Adams had some drops last year. CJ Mosley's never been very good with coming down with interceptions. The Jets always, for some reason, it feels like defense got to hit the jugs machine. The defense never catches picks. They just don't. The Jets have never been a huge interception team. I mean, none of their corners have been huge. Like Sauce, he's a lockdown guy. He's not a 4 to 5 interception guy. He isn't. That's just not who he is. But when you get a freebie like yesterday to boost the stats a little bit, that's a play you got to make. That was inexcusable. But DJ Reed's been their best corner. And DJ Reed right now is playing at an all-pro level. And he is heading in for a massive payday. We already talked about him getting a big payday. He's heading in for an even bigger one with his play this season. Yesterday, he was targeted 7 times and allowed 2 catches for 16 yards, which was amazing. Last 3 games, 15 targets, 4 catches allowed, 13 yards allowed. He leads all cornerbacks in PFF grade 90.5 and PFF coverage grade 90.8. You look at his total season numbers, 18 targets, 6 catches, 42 yards, a 33.3 catch percentage, lowest in the NFL. He's been the best corner in football. I think you can make the case he has been the best corner. Him and Pat Surtain have been the number 1, number 2 corners in football this season. He's been the best corner on the Jets. Made the case he's been the Jets' best defender. He's been amazing. He's been awesome. So credit to him. He continues to step up, and credit to the entire defense. They've been able to step up here. They have been. They've done enough. They've given the offense a chance. Unfortunately, the offense sucks. Stop me if you've heard that before. Also, Leonard Taylor had a good day yesterday. 87 pass rush grade, third highest among interior defensive linemen. Did struggle against the run, third lowest run defense grade with a 29.1 PFF grade there. But Leonard Taylor had dominant rep. He's showing off his pass rushing ability, giving the Jets a spark there in the interior. He's been great. And he's definitely earned playing time over guys like Jalen Holmes and pieces like that. He's definitely given this team a nice little spark there from a pass rushing perspective. And, hopefully you get Lucky Fotu back here soon, which maybe helps them contain the run. So we'll see. But Leonard Taylor's come on here. I would like to see him more early in the season. We were calling for him as well. Was inactive those couple of weeks, but when he's active and he's been out there, he's been making a really, really positive impact these last couple games. Jamien Sherwood's another one. He's talk about DJ Reed being one of the best corners. I mean, Jamien Sherwood's been one of the best linebackers right now in football. He's the second highest graded linebacker in the NFL according to PFF. His 83.4 PFF grade and 87 coverage grade ranks second behind only Fred Warner, and his 4.1 yards per catch easily ranks first in the league. So, coverage-wise, very strong. And I think, he's been awesome. He's been very strong. Credit to Sherwood. Mosley's not going to be here for forever. Sherwood's a guy that you feel like coming up the pipeline you can trust here in the future to start moving forward. He's been awesome. He's been awesome in coverage. There's been points where he's actually done more than looked better than Mosley. The only thing I think Mosley will always have the advantage of over Sherwood right now is just his football IQ is better. Sherwood's definitely much faster, definitely much more athletic. Mosley's obviously older and, speed-wise, doesn't quite have it, and definitely better in coverage. But in terms of football IQ, Mosley's definitely smarter. But Sherwood's sideline speed's been great, and it's been good, right? You could trust him out there. I also think that's part of the reason why they haven't rushed Mosley back, is because Sherwood's been so good. There's no need to rush him back. Get to full strength. Don't risk anything. Sherwood's been doing perfectly fine. He's been playing at a very high level. Very high level. So that's been a really big positive. And that's also credit to Jeff Ulbrich. And you want to throw credit to Saleh there too, fine. But a safety turned into a linebacker. They turned Quincy Williams into this stud linebacker. I mean, look, you want hope for the future. Sherwood and Quincy Williams, you have potential there to be your linebacker duo for a very long time. There's potential there. But credit to this. I mean, a lot of credit there goes to Ulbrich. And yeah, like I said, you want to throw Saleh in there as well. But turning Quincy Williams into what he's turned into and turning Sherwood into what he's been so far this season is, especially for a guy that was a safety converted linebacker, that's very, very impressive. And you see DJ Reed do what he's done, turn him into a number 1 corner. I mean, look, the defense is a positive. The offense is just sucks. So anyway, that'll do it. Sorry if I'm too negative. I really don't. I'm just fed up. This team continues to disappoint, as I've said for a while, and I truly meant this. I really thought this year was different. I really did. I really thought this year was different. I really thought we were going to see just a different team with Rodgers, and unfortunately, we're staring at the same situation. Like I said, you want delusion, you want optimism, Jets fans. The Jets, with a win a week from today, find themselves in first place in the division. As bad as things have been, the AFC has been extremely mid. The entire NFL has been extremely average. As bad as things have been, the Jets have a chance to take over first place in the division next week. Why do I think they will do it? No, but they have a chance. So you want delusion, you want optimism. As I ended the recap show yesterday, the recap show was 99% negative. This was 99% negative. Actually, a little bit more positive talking about the defense, but 95% negative. You want a little bit of positivity here. You want 95 negative, 4% was positive. That was talking about the defense. You want another 1% of positive for the Jets fans. You want some delusion? There's your delusion. They're one game back in the divisional win this week, and they find themselves in first place. So there's delusion. And Sean McDermott made a terrible, terrible decision yesterday. Awful coaching down the stretch. So maybe, just maybe, Sean McDermott will do that again next week and give Saleh a chance to outcoach him. Anyway, that'll do it. We'll talk to you guys soon. We'll have Bills analyst on Wednesday to talk about the game. Show will probably upload it on Thursday, though. We'll probably plan on recording Wednesday night. We'll upload it on Thursday, with the game, of course, being on Wednesday. So stay tuned for that. And Devontae Adams trade's heating up. If it happens, we'll obviously talk about it right away. If he gets dealt somewhere, I'm sure we will talk about that as well. Any other news, notes, all that good stuff, we will be here venting, I guess. Anyway, as always, through the highs and the lows, until next time, Jets, 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 Jets.